Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for coming. This morning is a very special one. We have the visit of Congressman Brady, representative of our 8th district, frankly based only a mile and a half from our plant. I understand it's his first visit to our Conroe plant, and we're very happy to have him here. Congressman Brady, by the way, has been in the House of Representatives since 1997, from what I recall. So it's a long, I call it a career, deeply involved in country matters, and today has a very important seat in the House on the Ways and Budget Committees at the federal level. So in short, Ways and Means, or the Ways and Means Committees, today responsible for about 2/3 of a federal budget, and therefore deeply involved in decisions that deal with not only budget and deficits and taxes, and Medicare and Social Security issues, which we know from what we hear have become the topic of almost the day. But without further ado, Congressman Brady, it's great to have you. It is our honor to have you at our Conroe facility today. The floor is all yours. Thanks very much.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for having me here. This is an impressive plant, my first trip here, and I just want to congratulate you on your success, on your growth, on the fact you're making such major improvements on quality control, on safety. You're making things more quickly, more safely, and of higher value, and that's how you compete and win in this economy. So I just want to congratulate you on doing a terrific job, and we look forward to working with you, to help you grow some more going forward. Let me just, I want to be real quick. We do more than 50 town hall meetings a year, and I'm able to do that because we live here in Montgomery County. I didn't move to Washington. My wife and I have 2 little boys, a soon-to-be 4th grader and a soon-to-be 8th grader, commute to work each week, and we do that to make sure we stay out of sort of that bubble in Washington, and we stay close to the workers, to the families, and to the communities we represent. In fact, over the years, I now have 2 million miles flying back and forth to Washington. We figured out that's 4 round trips to the moon. But we do that so we can stay close to you and we can do things like this. I want to update you real quick. A couple key issues that are coming at you at the end of this year, and then taking questions or comments, things I need to be aware of that worry you. The economy obviously is a key issue going forward. We're doing better in Texas than a lot of states. We're doing better in the Houston region than a lot of states, but a lot of the country is still struggling. The recession was tough. It's been 3 years since the recession ended, and unfortunately, we're just not bouncing back the way we need to. In fact, of all the tough times we've had in the past 70 years, and how we've recovered from each of them, we've had 10 recessions, 10 recoveries. This recovery, this bounce back, ranks 10th. America, normally, the deeper our economy goes down, the faster we bounce out. That's not happening this time. And as a result, you've got a lot of people, Americans, who've just given up looking for work. We have a very, very high unemployment rate, people who can't find jobs. We have fewer people working than in 30 years. So while we're doing better here, for your customers, for you to be producing more and more sales and more product, we've got to get the economy back on track. I think there's a couple reasons for it I want to talk about real quickly, but people are worried about our financial condition in America. We're getting deeper and deeper in debt, and it's a big worry here. This is our future as a country. That red area is our spending. The green is the revenue coming in to fund the federal government. The green is the taxes that you and I pay. You can tell where we're at right now is just sort of that spike right here. We're about right there. And that spending's getting ready to explode. The green is the tax money coming in. You can tell for the past 70 years, with ups and downs, it still averages out to about 19–20% of our economy goes to government, but look what's happening. You know, we're spending so far beyond what we can ever hope to pay. In that green area, when people say, we just need to raise your taxes and we can balance the budget, I'm telling you, we could double everyone's taxes in America and we still wouldn't balance the budget this year. You could take every dime from the wealthy, you wouldn't balance the budget. You got to get spending under control going forward. The other concerns we've had is right now, we've got a bunch of tax hikes that will occur January 1st unless Congress acts. These are taxes that I serve on the Ways and Means Committee, so I've spent basically 16 years trying to lower your taxes as far as they can go. But on January 1st, they spring back in a huge way. We've got to stop these tax hikes. Let me show you what they do to you. Well, here's all the tax relief that has already expired. We've got all the taxes that expire at the end of this year, including not just for the wealthy, for every family of every income group, every type of business will pay more to Washington next year unless we stop these tax hikes, which I'm determined to do. Here's what it means for you. If we don't stop these tax hikes, every one of you will send about $3,600 more next year to Washington. Now, I know that doesn't sound in Washington like a lot of money. It's real money for you, for our families, trying to make ends meet, for moms, for dads, for trying to figure out how we make it. You know, that's real money. We can't have you paying higher taxes. And here's what it is, you know, for baby boomers coming in, for young workers, $1,000 more next year. For retirees, you know, almost $2,000 more next year. You can't afford that. Truth is, you probably tightened your belt a lot in your family. I know this business has tightened its belt. Washington needs to tighten theirs, so that's why we've been so focused on stopping this tax hike. But here's the point too. We just did a study on what these tax increases would do. It will hurt the economy. 700,000 more Americans will lose their jobs. A lot of them here in Texas. A lot of businesses like this will pay higher taxes. And what's interesting is that because the economy slows down, people lose their jobs, the average paycheck will shrink as well. And I don't know about you, but you can't afford to have your paycheck shrink at all anywhere. So that's why we're focused on this. The other point too, at the end of this year, a bunch of spending cuts come in place that are really going to hammer our military. I have a little brother, Command Sergeant Major in the Army. You know, he's part of the 1% of America that have dedicated a career to protecting the 99% of us. If these spending cuts go forward, and we're going to send 100,000 of them, we're going to separate them from their careers and say, go home. We're going to hollow out our ground forces, our Air Force, our ships and all to the lowest levels, in some cases, in their history. And my worry is we're always going to face risks and terrorist attacks. There's going to be another war we'll be in 10 years from now, 5 years from now, someday. The decisions we make today will determine whether we win that fight 10 years from now. So we can't hollow out our military. We can't stop building the weapons and technology it takes to win that next fight, because it's coming. And every time we think we're doing well, we lower our guard as a country, and then we've got another war, another battle. So this one really worries me. This is one of the things that not only you face, but your customers face, is all the new red tape coming out of Washington and regulation. This chart shows the average red tape a business like yours faces each day. It's getting bigger and bigger. Not only does it slow down your projects when you're trying to build more and expand more, for your customers in the energy industry, it slows their projects down, or sometimes it's so expensive to pay for all this red tape, they scrap the projects themselves. So you sell less tube and pipe out of here. That means you grow less. That means it's tougher to get those pay raises and add those new jobs. So all this red tape lands right on you. And by the way, it's an average, but my guess is if Tenaris is the average business, this company pays $8,000 a year for every one of you to pay for all this red tape. So they pay a pretty steep price, and that money could go to building new equipment, to adding more, to creating more workers. So there's a price to you for this. And I'm going to finish with this. This is the new health care law. This is another thing our businesses tell us they are very worried about. This is a sort of a chart of how that new law works. And what you can see is down in this corner are you as patients. Over in that far corner are physicians who treat you. In between are 159 new healthcare agencies, commissions, bureaucracies in between you and your doctor. I worry they left in place about $1 trillion of tax increases that will hit businesses like this. They put in a bunch of cuts to Medicare. That's the healthcare plan for our moms, our parents and grandparents. It's going to cut healthcare for them. And they put in place a lot of things that will drive healthcare costs up. Our worry is that businesses facing this and higher healthcare costs, some businesses won't be able to keep the plan they've got, and they'll have to move them into these government plans. And I worry about that because we need to make sure you keep the best quality care there is. So I'll just finish with this, German. You know, in November, you know, in America, you decide the direction of the country by who you vote and who you elect. And right now, as you know, Congress and the White House is pretty divided. And it's because there's two different visions of which way this country ought to go. And so in November, you and I, when we vote, we'll make those decisions. And some of the key questions you and I are going to decide is the problem in Washington, is that the government spends too much? Is that the problem? Or is the problem that it takes too little of your income, that it doesn't tax people enough? My belief is it spends way too much and needs to tighten its belt. How large a government do you want and are you willing to pay for? Because it ends up on you and me to pay for all this. And finally, do you want the new health care law to stand? Those are the key questions facing us. So obviously we need to get this economy back on track, and we've got to get out of the way of the economy. Some of these, we got 18-wheelers just jackknifed across the road in our economy, in regulation, in health care and taxes. We got to get them out of the way so companies like yours can grow. So with that, let's stop and just take some questions about health care or any other issue you want to talk about.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Hear me now? Oh, good. How much of that spending that we saw, the big red, is part of Medicare and Social Security that's not being fixed?
Yeah, it's a huge, that's a great question. It's a huge part of it. Well, here, this is our budget as a federal government, and you can tell Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, look at that. You know, it's a huge part, and it's the most growing part of our budget. Sorry to give you so many charts, but it sort of helps to look at it. And here it is going forward. Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, at some point will eat up every dollar you and I send to Washington. And that's because so many people are retiring. I mean, 10,000 people a day in America sign up for Social Security and Medicare. They did Monday, they did Tuesday, they did Wednesday. So it's growing and growing and growing. And those two programs, Social Security and Medicare especially, are in deep financial trouble. They're not going to be there for people unless we make some changes to save them. And so anyone who tells you, anyone who says America can balance a budget and get itself back in good financial shape without saving those programs is not leveling with you. You just can't do it without it. And my big gripe is that Congress and presidents keep putting off fixing these programs, and the longer we do it, the harder it's going to be. What do you think? Do you think we ought to tackle those programs now, or just keep putting our head in the sand on this?
I'm all with Paul Ryan.
Yeah, I am too. He's my seatmate on the Ways and Means Committee. We came in together and worked our way up, and he's got a couple of really good ideas on how you save these programs, keep them just the way they are for people who are 55 years or older, but for those of us younger, to give us some options to make sure it's around for us. I think it's exactly the way we need to do it. So thank you very much. That's a great question, by the way, because it affects, the government's already taken money out of all of your paychecks. They won't be here for you unless we make these changes.
I have a question for you. Since the economic recovery of 2009 has been somewhat slow, as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, what role do you see the energy and manufacturing sector, and how will you promote that?
Yeah, it is energy. The answer is if we had been doing more as a country, I think we'd be farther along out of this recession. I mean, this is literally 10th of 10th, dead last in recoveries in our lifetime. I'm convinced there's a number of reasons, but we need to do more energy manufacturing, and here's a good example. There's only 3 states in the whole country that have gained back all the jobs in the recession, are on the positive side, the plus side: Texas, Alaska, and North Dakota. And what all 3 states are doing? Energy. We ought to be the model for what the rest of the country is doing, but they're not. Plus, not only do you create a bunch of good jobs, and it works its way down through companies like yours, but it also creates a bunch of new taxes to help balance the budget. So to me, it's a no-brainer that we ought to be doing more of it, but we're not. I think, we've got an opportunity in America with all the oil shale, all the natural gas. By some estimates, America could be the largest producer of energy in the world, in the next 7 to 8 years. So we could change everything. Our biggest obstacle right now is not Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. It's our own government. Washington's actually, I think, the biggest obstacle to us creating all those jobs in energy here in America. What do you think?
I would agree.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I've already depressed you so much on Friday. Hard to get going, huh? How many of you, can I ask you this? Because at the heart, I told you about those 3 questions that you and I are going to decide in the ballot box. Let me ask this. How many of you think the problem in Washington is that they don't tax you enough? How many of you think the real problem is government just spends too much money? That's what I think. And I'll tell you, this government wastes just so much money in so many different areas. And right now we're borrowing 40 cents for every dollar the government spends. We're borrowing it from China, from foreign investors, from investors here in America. You can't do that in your family. You can't do it in your business at all before it catches up to you. It's caught up to us already. And can I make one point on this thing? Oops. Yeah, there it is. Because we have 2 young boys, whenever I look at charts like that show our future, I always think, how does that affect our kids? And what this chart shows is that because of all that spending going forward, a baby born today in Conroe, their share of all that spending is already $47,000 the day they're born. So they owe Uncle Sam a Lexus on the day they're born. If we don't change our ways, by the time they're 13 years old, they'll owe a second Lexus to Uncle Sam. And by the time they're 22 and they're finishing school, or they're trying to get their family going, trying to get their life going, they'll owe a third Lexus. Now, the good news is young people don't actually buy luxury cars for the government, but they pay the price another way, because whenever you have that much debt, whether you're a company or a country, your economy slows down. All your money is going, in effect, to your mortgage payments and credit cards and all. It's not being invested. Your economy slows down. And it gets harder to borrow money, so it's more expensive, and higher taxes go up. So what that means to a young person is that when they're 22 and getting ready to start their life, there'll be fewer jobs for them to go for, and if they do get a job, they'll have less money in their pocket as a result. So for young people, if you're a mom thinking about, what your kid's future is going to be like, if we keep spending like this, they're going to have fewer opportunities for good jobs, and they're going to keep less of what they get. They'll be sending too much of it to Uncle Sam. So there's a real price for families from all this spending. And I'm sorry you sort of got me on a rant here, but this is one of my biggest fights in Washington is those who say, look, let's just tax people more. No, you've got to get the spending under control. Right. Let me ask this. What do you think the most important issue is? Ma'am, go ahead.
My question is, what programs do you think we would benefit the most in cutting as far as spending?
Let's look at it. Sorry, I get paid by the chart. That's why you guys have all this stuff. There's the budget. This obviously defense is really important to this country, but the green pie there are the things we think about for government, like highways or air traffic controllers or veterans care or security at the border. And that's the area most people focus on because that's what you think of government. But look, it's only a small part of the budget. So you can eliminate that and you still have a deficit. In fact, you could eliminate defense and the green pie. You'd still be wrong. We don't even have enough money to cover the rest. And so I think you've got to not only cut all the fat out of those two that we can, but we've also got to take a look at other things that are on automatic spending, subsidies, issues like that we can't afford anymore. A good part of our foreign aid, some of it's really smart, but most of it's wasted on countries that frankly hate our guts, and it's time to just end that stuff. We waste money all through the government. For example, we're trying to close a loophole in the way people get their taxes back. We waste $7.5 billion a year money sending government checks to people who aren't the country here, who claim refunds for kids who don't exist or who live outside the country. Doesn't make sense. They aren't eligible for it. We've got waste. That's $7.5 billion. We've got a ton of that. But to answer your question, I think we have to tighten our belt across the spectrum. I mean, really, there's no spending that we ought not take a real hard look at to figure out if we can afford it. And right now, we're a food stamp nation. We're the highest people on welfare and food stamp in our history. Half of Americans don't pay taxes, federal income taxes. A third of Americans are on government assistance, not Social Security, Medicare, but other government assistance. If we grow the economy the right way, if we insist people who can work do work and contribute to this, not only do we cut spending, are we able to do that, but you grow the economy and you can balance this budget again. So what do you think? Where do you think we ought to start?
One of my biggest concerns was foreign aid.
Yeah.
Money that we send to other countries that don't support us.
Yeah. It's not a big part of the budget, but frankly every dollar matters and we waste too much of it. So I'm real cognizant of your time and don't want to take much of it. You were gracious enough to give me a tour, and this is an impressive plant in Washington. I work full-time on the economy. I disagree with the way this president's handling the economy. I think there's a smarter way to do it on the regulation, on the health care and taxes issues. So if you've got some issues, you've got some feelings about any of those, let us know. I mean, come to our website and sign up for our e-newsletter. Email me, call us. We've got some, I think, some cards around here you can tell us. But let me finish with this story. I don't know how many, did any of you get to watch the Olympics when it was on a couple weeks ago? I love watching it, and I was amazed at our gymnasts, our women gymnasts, amazing team of young kids. But I was watching them, I was thinking, boy, they're really the American dream. I mean, here they are, you're 14 years old, little girl, you convince your mom that you should travel across the country and move away to pursue your dream. Your mom takes a second job to get the income to pay for your training. You work 7, 8, 9 hours a day, evenings, weekends, you have no break or no life. You compete and go to the Olympics. You win, become part of the U.S. team, you go to the Olympics. You compete under tremendous pressure. No guarantee you're going to succeed or fail. In fact, you fail spectacularly in front of the world. You succeed spectacularly in front of the world. But those young women are living the American dream. Government didn't build it for them. And they worked hours and hours and hours. They knew exactly what they wanted to achieve. They had no guarantee of success or failure. Although if they succeed well. But all they want, all they're asking is an opportunity to prove themselves. That's all they're asking for. I think we need to get away from all the bureaucracy, government trying to solve everything in the world. If we just go back to giving you and me an opportunity to succeed or fail on our own, if we go back to that principle, I guarantee you, we can turn this country around. We'll get our financial house in order. We can tackle these things. We just need to quit relying on government to do it and just give you and me a fair shot. We'll do just fine as a country. With that, Mr. Kuna, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you having me here today.